Hey you, I'm the Queen of Shade. Welcome to the interview. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit my Cash App to support your favorite content creator. Now let's get to the interview. Mwah.
I can think about a million reasons why you need to burn in hell. You're a liar and a cheater, a con artist telling tales. Been rejected, disrespected, boy, your abuse never fails. I'm so done, boy, really done, boy, now I'm staying to myself. I'm so stoic. I'm so stoic. I'm so stoic. I'm so stoic.
Salutations to foes. This is your fabulous leader, the Queen of Shade, coming to you to have a conversation with you, a chat with you that is needed. It is absolutely needed. And I had to get dressed today. I'm under the weather, COVID again. But I had to bring you this message because as I'm sitting here recovering and feeling better, and now expecting my grandmother to recover, make a full recovery as well. Please keep her in your prayers. These thoughts came to me, and I wanted to share these thoughts after having had a conversation with my grandmother. So here it goes. I don't know if you're like me, but you're a kind person. I'm a kind person. I would hope that you are. I'm a giving person. I'm a person that will give their last to see you get your first. You know, I'm the type of person where I always see the potential in people, and that can kind of be a double-edged sword because I see the good in people. And sometimes, a lot of times, people show up and they show you the bad, and you're still hanging on to the good that you saw in them. But the good is not what's being displayed. It's the bad. And you're the only one that tends to be concerned about it. Usually in cases with me, I'm the only one who is worried about the good in a person's life. They wake up and choose violence. They wake up and choose cutlery, and all of these different things. They wake up and they choose to do bad things to themselves and others. So it's very difficult sometimes, the life that I live, because I am constantly seeing the good in people whom, yes, I'm going to say it, don't deserve the good to be seen because of their actions. You see, we must judge books not by covers, by the manifesto. We have to see the actions of a person. And in my life, it has always gotten me in trouble because I see the good in people. I see what they can be. I see what they should be. But I tend to be the only person sometimes that can see that about these people, that can see that in their lives. But for me, I'm a fairly good person. I have my days, but I'm a fairly good person. I tend to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders because I want to see the world be a beautiful place and stay a beautiful place. I want to have my light and my life make the world a better place, to bring about a difference in this world, to touch this world in a way that most people could only dream of. So I do it for them so that they believe in me, because we can't all win the race. We won't all win the race. But if I help you pick a champion, someone you can trust, someone you can count on, someone who will not forget you, then you know that in my victory, I'm carrying your hopes, your dreams, your desires, your aspirations, all with me across that finish line. I want to speak to you about the downside of being the type of person that I am. I'm a very giving person, as I've said. I care. I'm empathic, incredibly empathic. That means that I lead with emotion and my heart never steers me wrong. But my heart has loved people whom did not deserve the love that I had to offer. And in so doing, I've gotten myself in trouble before because people take my kindness for weakness. Just nod if this is you. Just nod. I'm going somewhere. I have an agenda. People take my kindness for weakness. And because they take my kindness for weakness and my kind nature and my want and my desire to help, they heap a lot of responsibility on me that A, doesn't belong to me, and B, is actually not my responsibility. I find that a lot of people use my kind nature and my willingness to give against me. And the reason why I'm saying this to you today is because I'm going to explain some things. And you can consider this your get out of guilt-free card. Many times, people like myself, we voluntarily sign up to help people. And in helping them, we find out that they're not helping themselves. What becomes a help mission or a rescue mission becomes a soul surviving mission where you are carrying not only yourself, but the person and whoever else they want to bring to ride your back to safety. And I saw this a lot first in my grandmother, in my family. My grandmother, as you may know, the Queen Mother, the Duchess of Slay, is a very, very remarkable woman. She cared for not only her children with my grandfather, whom became absentee, but then her brothers and sisters, and then my 4 siblings. And now she's also doing for her great-grands. And I've watched this woman do this for 4 generations. Give her last. Try to make everyone happy. Try to meet everyone's needs emotionally and financially. I've watched her bend over backwards with her check as a teacher, because that's what she is. She's an educator. I've watched her do miracles with her money. And people don't understand, well, how is she able to do that? You know, people want to praise her for that. Wow, you're very intelligent. But I want to first lead you to understand this. My grandmother is very intelligent, but my grandmother is used to spinning straw into gold because it was required of her. She had no choice in the matter. You know, my grandmother and I, we suffer with the same condition. We wish that someone else in the family would step up and help other members of the family. We wish that someone else would focus and become a master, a creator, someone that could help shoulder the load of the entire family, the weight of the entire family. We wish, but my family doesn't take that role. They are very comfortable with allowing the kind-hearted people to shoulder all of their responsibility, to shoulder all of the obligation. If they fail, it's because we didn't help them. If they fail, it's because we removed ourselves from the situation. And because we removed ourselves from the situation, they fell. So therefore, it's our fault. And you know, I've been talking to my grandmother this morning, and I just started going off. Because like I said, my grandmother is sick right now. I'm sick right now. She contracted COVID again for the 3rd time. I contracted it caring for her. And we didn't go anywhere but one place. We went one place, and we weren't even in there an hour. We went one place with our mask and literally caught COVID. But right now, other than one child, because she's my grandmother, one biological child of hers has called to check on her. She has sent out text messages to her network because she gives affirmations every day. She sends them like clockwork. And she told her whole network, listen, I'm under the weather, but I am going to send these affirmations out. I will not miss a day. Just know that I'm sick. And she was very sick the other day. It got to the point where she was regurgitating everything that she was placing in her body, all liquids, everything. And you know, it got me to thinking, as powerful as my grandmother has been, as talented as my grandmother has been in her life, as much of a savior as she was to all of us, very few of us ever come back to help her, ever come back to say thank you, ever come back to lighten the load. And you see, that's where I come in. You see, I'm my grandmother's firstborn grandson. So I saw a lot with my grandmother and my family. I saw the dynamic, and I process much differently than my family does. I see things that most people don't see. And then working on myself and having therapy for 18 years and learning myself helped me to be able to learn others very quickly. And what I've noticed is that my grandmother doesn't get a fraction of what she gives out. And this is disturbing to me because I follow in her footsteps. I give and I give and I give. And it was her that taught me that I deserve to be paid for what I give, that I deserve to have my own company, to own it all because of the type of person that I am. It was my grandmother that said to me years ago, 10 years ago, no, you're not going to be a slave to fashion. No, you're not going to be a slave to film. No, you're not going to be a slave to music. You're going to have your own. You're going to do your own thing. You're going to reap all of the rewards, all of the benefits. Now, yes, when you fail, you will learn the lesson, but it will be all yours. And that was such a far-fetched idea to me because I had been coming up in fashion and music the way that I had been, and the way that everybody does it is you go to a larger conglomerate because you don't have financially the power or the capability to fund your career. So you basically sell yourself and your art to someone who can write a check and help you continue to do with your art what you want to. The downside of that is that when you're done, the many years that you toil with your art, when you're done, after all of that hard work, you don't own any of the work you created. The people that paid for it do. And the people that you signed your gifts to contractually, they own it forever. And my grandmother did something new with me. She said, no, that's not the only way that there is. Now, to a young 24-year-old son of hers, I didn't know any other way. Oh, you do this, you chart, you do this, you do that, you do this, you sign with the big labels and you go to the modeling agencies and you do this, that, and the other. It was a very radical idea that she placed in my head that I could literally own everything that I made, everything that I am, my likeness, the whole lock, stock, and barrel of the thing. But she kept putting it in my head. And I got to a place through therapy and through her mentorship where I realized my self-worth. And I realized it in a very big way, a way that caused the rest of my family to feel threatened, a way that caused the way that my family thought to feel threatened, because I no longer had that mentality. I no longer possessed that way of thinking. You guys always hear me say, I always talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, finding self-actualization, learning to love yourself, accept yourself as you actually are, And then I talk about Plato's allegory of the cave. Once the young man is free, even though he tries to free his family, they do not see him as one of them, and they ostracize him, put him out, tell him he must go. And if he tries to return, they will kill him because he is no longer one of them. It was a lot for me to take in to understand that success would ostracize me in my family. The trauma of thinking that in itself, before it ever happened, was enough to leave lasting damage and scars. The guilt for being a survivor, the guilt for being the one that made it out. The term is survivor's guilt. The guilt for being the one who becomes the people's choice. But you know what I realized? I didn't just become the people's choice. I didn't just get out of jail free. I did a whole lot of work that hasn't been seen and can't be seen while I'm sitting here talking to you. Work that I have done on myself in the privacy of my own space, changing, cocooning and growing, becoming the butterfly that I am today. And I'm not even really a butterfly. I'm more of a phoenix, a bird of fire. All of those things that my grandmother mentored me and taught me and that I learned on my own and through experience, they started to play a role in my life, a huge part of my life. I started to realize I could fly. I started to realize that I was not a sparrow, but an osprey. You know, sparrows and ospreys are two different types of birds, though they're birds and they both fly. But sweetheart, a sparrow and an osprey are not the same. And that's how it became with my family and me. I'm not the same as my family. I don't look the same. I don't act the same. I don't think the same as my family. And for this, it caused me a lot of pain because I was rejected by my family. I began to hear things like, oh, he thinks he's better than us. He's arrogant. Oh, he doesn't have any time for anything other than what he is doing or what he wants to do. He doesn't spend time with the rest of the family. And when I heard these things, they bothered me so much because I was like, okay, am I the only one awake here? Am I the only one aware that you guys did things to try to derail me? That did derail me? That you guys weren't able to help me, but just because you were not able to help me didn't mean that you should hurt me at the same time. And that's what a lot of members of my family did. They weren't able to help me, but in the same breath, when you shouldn't be hurting me or hindering me, they hurt me and tried to hinder my growth and success. Even as far as telling my grandmother not to spend her money on me, not to invest in me. She did it anyway because of the bond her and I had and her observation into who I am, how I am, what I do, how I do it. It's a big deal. My life was a very big deal to my grandmother, and she helped me where many people said that she shouldn't have, just because they didn't want me to get help. I come from a family that started out in poverty, started out in the ghettos of Northern Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, where it was survival of the fittest, the strong survived. Many of my family underwent trauma living in the ghetto because my grandmother put into all of us, she instilled in all of us education and a need to get out, a will to get out. So with her children, they were educated. No college, but educated. But her children were educated with a high school education. And then after that, they kind of went out into the world went to trade schools and things like that, and got their education. But it was still very much an inner city education. And you see, right there is already the issue. You see, when I was 10 years old, after being bullied in the inner city for being gay and effeminate and having a high voice, a voice that has now made me famous internationally, my aunt and my grandmother decided to do something different. They plucked me out of school in the inner city, and I began schooling in the suburbs. And I want you to understand something. I want you to understand this. I didn't immediately start thriving. I was carrying the trauma of being bullied all those years, even to the point where I got into school in the suburbs and I still couldn't focus. I still was falling through the cracks. I wasn't doing my best because I was stunted with so much trauma and damage. But eventually I got the hang of it. Just enough to get through it. I had situations happen where I moved from one suburb to another suburb and I lost all of my friends. I had never had friends like that ever again. To this day, I've never had friends like that ever again. And I was so devastated that I almost failed the 7th grade because I just couldn't focus. I was so traumatized. And you need to understand something. This trauma had not been addressed. I did not get therapy until I was 24 years old. I was 10. I'm describing myself at 10. So going back a little bit, after already going through the problems and the trauma of having my mother be on drugs and sell everything in the house, all of my belongings, having to go to school and steal lunches in the inner city just so I could take them home so that myself and my siblings, my 3 siblings, would have a meal to eat. Because at that time, our mother didn't care. So I became mother. And I never would have gotten through that era of my life if it wasn't for my grandmother. I could call her and I knew her phone number by heart. I knew where her house was. I could call her and say, we don't have any food. And my grandmother, on the way to class, her class, every morning, for a couple of days at a time, we ate. She would bring us big pots, but she would stop by and she would drop off a pot of oatmeal with raisins and cinnamon and tell me, Bjorn, all you have to do is add the milk. Now, mind you, I was 6, but I had to feed my siblings, and my grandmother helped with that until one day I just couldn't take it anymore. I left that home. I walked out of that home. I didn't tell anybody, not my siblings, anything. As this young 6-year-old, 7-year-old, I walked to my grandmother's house. I knocked on the door. She let me in, and I looked at her and I said, I'm not going back. My grandmother, understanding, acquainted with the plight of what I was living, picked up the phone, called my mother. My mother was in bed with one of her Johns, and she picked up and she said, he's with me. I'll take him from here. I always was the one that survived. I always was the one that fought hardest. Even being a little boy, I fought the hardest. My grandmother did eventually go back and get my sisters and brothers, but it was after they had experienced far more damages than I did because I left them. And what you have to understand is, for that act of leaving them, I have spent years in therapy trying to make up for it, trying to forgive myself, begging for their forgiveness because I left them. But do you know what I realized? As my therapist so eloquently put it, I had one life to save. I had one life to save. And that was mine. And my attitude was, if I get out, I can come back for them later. And that's what happened. And that's what I did. But the problem was that they were not strong enough to ever get over the trauma that they were experiencing. And for a long time, I was resented by my siblings. I still am to this day, and I'm 40, because I was the one that always chose himself. I was the one that always knew that I could do more for them away from them, getting the help, than actually being there with them. And for years in therapy, I cried about that. And my therapist said, you had to save yourself. The ship was going down, but you had to save yourself. And that's what I continued to do, even as an adult. I don't have a close-knit relationship with any of my siblings. My brother was the last sibling that I was close to. And 2 years ago, he tried to kill me here in my house. He's schizophrenic. And that was it. Got a 3-year restraining order. Said goodbye to my brother as he left in the back of a police car to be escorted somewhere else because I didn't press charges. I wasn't going to send him to jail. But I got him up out of here. And he was the last one, the last tie that I had to my brothers and sisters. And I said goodbye to that tie. And you know what I realized? For years, I watched the damage that happened to them. I watched them make poor decisions with their lives. I watched them search for love in all the wrong places. And I did nothing to help them. I did nothing to help them. Or so I felt, that I did nothing to help them. And you know, it wasn't until I got into therapy, dealing with the survivor's guilt of being the only one that made it out. Because my brothers and sisters eventually returned to the hood. I did not. I did for a time, but being who I am, I've got wings. I quickly rose out of that mess again. But it took me a long time of feeling guilty and sorry and sad to realize something. I did help them. You want to know how I helped them? I helped them by example. They could have watched me as an older brother, watched what I did, watched the help that I got, asked me about the therapy, asked me how I found my footing. And by example, my example, they could have found help too. Do you know what I realized? As grown people, it is not my responsibility to save anyone but myself. The hardest thing I've ever had to admit, and I'm admitting it now on camera. So back to this conversation that I had with my grandmother. We were talking about situations where the person that genuinely is kind gets stuck and becomes the foundation, the backboard, the support, the everything to the people standing on top of her. And the most traumatic part of it all is when you realize the people that you are trying to help have no interest in helping themselves. They want to live the fast life. They want to do what they want to do. They want to sleep around. They want to do what it is they want to do because they're grown now. They're going to do what they want to do. But every time I come around, it's a reminder that they could have done something differently. My success shines a light on my entire family's failure. Yeah. Little old me, who has become an international icon. Known. Continuing to work every day to become more and more known and put more and more finances in my pocket. I became a threat. And I noticed this, not just in my family, but when I go out into the world. I can tell when a person has settled because of the way they look at me and my glow and the way that I shine. And for years, I would not go places because I didn't want people to look at me and hate me because I made different choices. It was hard for me too. It was life or death for me too. My mother, their same mother, my mother, drug addict, father, mental illness. I took a bastard. I took a bastard child, an accident, an unwanted pregnancy. And I turned him into an international success. That is very hard to do. But I did that for myself. I carry a lot of pain with me. I carry a lot of hurt with me. But you know, when I ask the divine, why the pain and why am I still alive? The divine replies, because you're here to tell the tale of that pain and how even the pain didn't stop you from reaching your objective and your goal. My family hates me because I don't give to them. I don't give my time. I don't give my money. I don't give my energy. I don't give them anything. And I'll tell you why. Because I used to want to all the time. I used to talk to my grandmother about, well, maybe if I give him this amount of money, maybe if I give him this, maybe they can start this. Maybe if I send him to a trade school, maybe if I send her to college, maybe if I do. And you know, my grandmother stopped me one day and she said, baby, stop. Because they have to want to go. All they're going to do is take your money and still resent you for having it. They have two legs. They have two arms. They have a mouth and a brain and a soul just like you. And none of you are children anymore. So in realizing this, I said to my grandmother today, there has to come a point in all of our lives as caretakers when we realize we're being used. And when we decide to stop becoming and stop staying the support system for everybody else to stand on and get to their happy endings while we suffer in pain because we are so busy trying to support this entire structure on our backs so that they don't fall, so that they don't get embarrassed, And we do that because we know what it's like to be embarrassed. I know what it's like to fall and be embarrassed and be ridiculed and talked about. My college career ended in flames. Embarrassing. But guess what? I survived it. I survived it. I know what it's like. But at some point, as I told my grandmother today, you have to let it all go. Let every person go. Stop supporting them. For so long, people have been taking advantage of nice people like me, saying, if it wasn't for you, I would fall. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't make it. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have. I need you. And we hear those words, you need me. And for people that are givers and alienated because of the magnitude of their gifts, hearing words like, I need you, are kryptonite. Because they reel us in and we stay. But guess what? I'm here to tell you today, like I told my grandmother, you may be kind. You may be supporting your whole family. It's okay to let it go. It's okay to drop it. It's okay to stop holding it up. Let me tell you something. Whether you were there or whether you were not, it was going to fall anyway. And that's what I had to realize. Whether I help or don't help, for people that are not bent or fixated on bettering themselves, it's going to fall eventually anyway. So you just remove yourself and let what happens happen. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't know about you, but I never learned a lesson more clearly, more readily, and more painfully than being dropped. I have never learned a lesson quicker than hitting the ground and scraping my knees. I learned immediately what not to do, who not to trust, and where not to go. I learned all of those things. And my therapist and my grandmother keep telling me, you can't shield your family from the series of events that are going to happen. You're just prolonging it. And you're actually doing them a disservice. You're enabling them. And you're doing them such a disservice because if they're anything like me, if my blood flows through their veins and their blood flows through mine, baby, rock bottom will ignite a star. It will ignite a passion in them that the world has never seen, because that's what it did for me. I've been so low that all I could do was take the pebbles on the ground and put them in a pile to stand on a platform. That was all I had. I have seen rock bottom more times than I care to count in my life. But you know, for grown people, I'm 40. I have a 39-year-old under me, a 37-year-old under me, going to be 38, and I have a 35-year-old. We are not kids. None of us. And it is not my responsibility or the responsibility of my grandmother to clean up all of the mistakes that my family members willingly chose to make with their lives. You know, I had an aunt. Oh, he's so arrogant. He's so full of himself. He's so bougie. No, sweetheart. You grew up in the city. I got my education in the suburbs. I'm used to being on a certain level, and I'm going to have that level because that's where I'm used to being. That's what I'm used to. And it's not that I'm arrogant. I'm focused on building my empire, and my empire does not include you. And I'm not sorry about it. There is nothing that these people can teach me. They're older than me. They were alive 13, 14 years before I got here. They had jobs and lives to live. It is not my job or responsibility to pick up the slack, especially when they chose to do what they did with their lives. To them, love was more important. To them, family. And I don't mean our family, because my family fights like cats and dogs. They would go out and meet a partner and forge families that way. It's not my fault that those families became more important to them than their success. But to me, my success was everything, because my success is me. You see, I didn't have to go out and learn a new trick. I didn't have to learn a new gimmick. I had to master the most important thing in my life, and that was me, myself. I am the money. I am the fame. I am the prestige. I am the survivor. I am the blessing in my own life. Listen, you may or may not believe in God, but I believe God gives me the power and the strength to live my life on a daily basis. I believe that Him empowering me is God in me. I believe that I am exercising God-like power and ability in myself to will myself and work as hard as I do to get out of the snares of bondage. That's what I believe. And I've been doing it for 20 years. In the last 18, it's been wonderful to have help and a support system of therapists and doctors and my grandmother and her financial endowment. It's been wonderful. But make no mistake about it, that money can only do what I tell it to do. My empire can only grow to what I grow it to. Without any of that, if I'm fucked up, everything that I touch will be fucked up. But because I am who I am, and I took the 18 years to learn to love myself more than I love any other person on this planet, that's why I am successful. But we as successful people have to stop paying for the mistakes of our families. They wanted to do what they did. Me, I had sex for a while, realized I could possibly get sick, went celibate for 10 years. Why? Because I realized I could not afford to trust the wrong person, be intimate with them, and contract something I couldn't get rid of that would impede my career for the rest of my life. So I made a decision not to see anyone. Last August, I celebrated 10 years of celibacy because I made the hard choices. If I'm going to make it, I can't be focused on X, Y, and Z. I have to have tunnel vision, and I have to see my success, and I have to work at that success every single day. And that's what I do. And yes, I have alienated my family. We have nothing in common. There is nothing that they can teach me. Nothing. I've already had lessons in failure. I conquered those lessons, and I moved on to being an entrepreneur, a Black male entrepreneur. They can't talk to me or teach me about those things because they never did it. They can only teach me what they have done. They can only share with me their experiences, and I have surpassed them in experience, and they're unhappy about it. Oh, well, I'm your aunt. I'm older. I'm this, I'm that. You may be older, but I'm smarter, I'm wiser, and I'm more anointed. And furthermore, I'm not going to support your bullshit. I'm not going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars for you to live any old kind of way you live. And without, because you don't have the proper knowledge and education on how to handle money at that level and of that caliber, you just going to make $500,000 bills. See, right now, you got $20,000 bills. You got $15,000 bills. I refuse to make monsters in my family. My education into entrepreneurship has been a long one. I've learned about money. I've learned about a lot of things that I did not learn about growing up. But I was given a second chance coming back to my grandmother and her being able to mentor me and teach me the things I did not learn as a youngster because there were so many people in the house. I once lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with my 4 siblings, my grandmother, 2 adults, my aunt and my uncle, and 2 children of my sisters. And I slept on the floor in the living room from 7th grade to 12th grade. I did not sleep in a bed until I got to college. And my first bed, some racist white kids peed in because they didn't like me. They peed on my beautiful comforter. And I didn't realize it until I got into it. Yeah, I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life. I ended up leaving that room and rooming with someone else. The building rep said, no, we can't have this. They were racist. But I have spent my life getting rid of the things that I don't need. And I'm sorry. A lot of people have not stayed because I've put them out. It's less mouths to feed. Less mouths to feed. And isn't that crazy? Because that's a lot of the mentality of Black people when they have illegitimate children. Oh, well, if he goes out and does whatever he do, I don't care. It's less mouth to feed. No, but you need to understand why I'm saying that. Because now I'm responsible for myself. I'm not a child. I'm 40 years old. It is not my responsibility to take care of grown folk. The only one I'm taking care of is my grandmother. She's 75. She's getting older. She's the first person in the history of my family to grow old. Everybody else died young. She's the first. We're seeing this in my family for the first time. And ironically and sadly, a lot of my family is missing it. But I get to see my grandmother age and her hair go white and learn from her and see her need me to help her with her meals and all of these different things. And I'm enjoying that process. I'm enjoying taking care of her. And the other person I take care of besides me is my nephew. I've got a favorite nephew. Yes, I said it. And I can say I have a favorite because I don't have any children. I've got a favorite nephew. He's 22 years old. He is my everything. He's my everything. I love him since he came back into my life at 15. He was 15 and I was already working and I fell for that boy. That boy is my heart. That boy is the son I never had. So now him at 22 and me at 40, I look out for him and I look out for my grandmother. I look out for me and I look out for my kitty cat. That's my family, closely knit. Now, mind you, I have other family members that are not by blood, but by spirit. Shout out to Minnie, my producer. She's my sister, Kara Tavers. Shout out to her. Shout out to my sister, Cassandra Lewis in Chicago. Shout out to her. We talking beautiful people. Shout out to Tracy, I call her Dimps, family members that I have met on my way to being what I am. And while I'm here, shout out to these amazing people that have held me down. I have an amazing chosen family, but not too many people in my family are actually blood. But I said all of that to say this: let it go. You're the nice one. You're the kind one. You've been paying everybody's bills. You've been doing all this stuff. And they're still envious because they don't have it. They want to tell you how to live your life because you have more means. They want to tell you what you should do with your means. They want to tell you how you should spend your means on them. But they want to guilt trip you when you buy something for yourself. Those are not your family. Let them go. Let go. Pull out from under them and understand that the fall was already going to happen. It was already going to happen. So let it happen and walk away from it. It is not your responsibility. More people need to understand how to walk away from bad situations. It's something I've gotten really good at. I know how to walk away from bad situations very quick. I had my first boyfriend from June the 30th to September 11th of last year. My first boyfriend, my only boyfriend. And he was verbally abusive, trying to maintain control. But I think it was that way because I think he thought he knew me. But I have been away from a lot of people for a lot of years. I wasn't the same person he thought he knew. And in order to him to have control, he got a little verbally abusive. And I had to let him know I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that. So I walked away from him. I will love him forever. Will I ever go back down that road? Hell no. Because when people show you who they are and how they are, believe them, accept it, and get the fuck away from them. So that's what I did. Now, does that mean I won't have amazing relationships after? No, it doesn't mean that. But I'm staying true to what I want. And we all know what I want. If you don't, go look back at the videos. I tell you all the time. But let the house of cards fall. Let it fall. Let it fall. You see, it's not your responsibility to breed survival in your kin. I'm just built differently. And I've felt guilty about it for so many years. I'm built differently. And they hate me for it, but they're not the only ones. I've got members of Hollywood's elite and, just people everywhere that just cannot stand me because I do a lot of things well and my heart is good. And you know what that means? They're insecure because once again, my success shines a light on their failures and their settlements. See, they shouldn't have settled. You look at me and you're going, oh, I should have held out. You should have held out. That's not my problem. I held out and I got what I wanted, the career of my dreams, and I owned it all. Listen, I call myself the $1 billion voice. That's for a reason, sweetheart. Internationally, my voice is known. My music has been heard in 56 countries. Baby, I am who I am. I'm not going to live in America. I'm going to live in France again because I already lived there once. So it's not something that is far-fetched. I've already done it. So I'm just going to go back and live the life that I want to live. And unfortunately, I won't have a lot of blood family around me. They were growner than I was. They were raising me and they did a terrible job. Terrible job. My grandmother had to come in and undo, and therapists had to come in and undo all of the things that they had done. And 18 years of therapy to process that family, only to realize they're not my family. They're my relatives, not my family. But listen, to all you kind people out there, let it go. Stop supporting it. You're only one person. You can't support all those things. Eventually, you can't support all those people. Eventually, it's going to fall. It's going to fall. And let me let you in a little secret. They're going to blame you either way. Whether you stay in support and it falls, then it's your fault. Or whether you leave and it falls, it's your fault. Because you had more and you wouldn't help and you wouldn't give. My mother, my biological mother, who I have no relationship with, I stay away from her. She lives in a nursing home. Every time I see her on the phone, she's doing this. And you know what I'm doing? Click. Nothing. You get nothing from me. You get what you gave me. Thank you for life. Thank you. My father, same thing. Thank you for life. That's what you get. But I'm not in the habit of being Captain Save-A-Ho anymore. I'm nice, but baby, everybody that is around me has to be able to support themselves, carry their own weight, and walk on their own 2 feet. I'm not carrying anyone across the victory line. I'm not carrying anyone across the threshold. I'm not doing any of that. I am not that girl. And my family hates me for it. Oh, we helped him when he was this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? Thank you, but I don't owe you anything. You were older than me. It was your responsibility to rear me. And you guys stepped up to the plate to do so, and you did so poorly. That is on you. It is not my job to take care of grown people. So you don't get my time, you don't get my energy, you don't get my presence, and you damn sure don't get my money. And more people need to understand this message. That's why I got dressed, even with COVID, and I'm sitting here and I'm telling you, stop holding up the house of cards, people. Let that house fall. It was already built rather flimsy and unstable. The foundation isn't sturdy enough to support it. So don't you come in and then the next thing you know, you paying for this sister, you paying for this brother stuff, you paying for your aunt's this, you paying for this, you paying for groceries, you paying. No. At some point, you have to decide that loving yourself and being the black sheep is better than being used and taken advantage of. And that's what I have decided. My life as queen is far better than being used and taken advantage of by people that are supposed to love me and support me. I'm not doing it. And today I taught my grandmother that lesson. I said, they could all just walk away. She was telling me things. I'm like, listen, they could all just walk away, sell the house, sell everything, go get leave. People are saying, they don't understand because that's what I do. I leave. If it gets too heavy, I put it down. There is no, but what about no, it wasn't mine to begin with. I came in to help. And then you got saucy on me and decided to make me compensate and overcompensate for everything to the point where you stopped helping yourself and started relying solely on me. I'm not enabling you. I'm not enabling anyone. Do it yourself. Why? Because I did. Yes, grandmommy's money helped, but grandmommy didn't help me with this. Grandmommy didn't help me build this empire up higher. I wrote every song. Every video was inspired by the divine and my ancestors as I channeled. I did the work. A lot of people hate me, starting with family. But don't hate me. I suffered for this. I bled for this. I walked alone for this. Everything that I have and everything that I'm entitled to is because I wouldn't settle. I didn't get lazy. One thing about me that you will understand to the day I die, I love me more than I love you. And I will always love me more than I love you. And we don't have enough people saying that. I watched Whoopi Goldberg say in Behind the Beauty, it was called Behind the Beauty interview, that she's self-absorbed. She only wants to spend time to herself to reflect on herself. And I understood completely what she meant because I spend my time with myself, for myself, by myself, to myself. I am more comfortable. See, I used to be one of those people that needed people around me. I didn't want to be alone. And then years ago, I decided to be alone. And it went better than I expected, far better than I expected, because now I prefer my own company. And I'm not sorry about it. I amuse me. There's so much going on up here. I amuse me. I write songs and stories and come up with ideas. And yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm a living, breathing creature. I'm a whole enterprise over here. It's not my fault that you don't have the imagination. It's not my fault you don't have the brain power. It's not my fault. I am who I am, and get it. I was born this way. I can't cut it out. It would grow right back. So let the house of cards fall. Stop taking care of grown folk. Stop letting them guilt trip you into doing for them. when they never did for you, when they never saw about you, when they gave you the bare minimum but expect the maximum from you. I've been there. People have given me the bare minimum and called it help, but they want me to roll out the red carpet and give them the maximum for their minimum effort. No. You don't do minimal effort here and get maximum results and returns. No. Yeah, you helped me. Thank you. That's what you gave me. That's what you gave me. You didn't give me no money. You didn't give me nothing. Nothing. Thank you. Thank you for supporting me in hot air only. And then turning around and going behind my back and, oh, he thinks he this, and oh, he need to get a real job, and oh, he need to do this, and oh, well, sweetheart, I have a real job. I work for myself. I am who I am. I am Bjorn Dufault. That is my name. And I am known as the illustrious Queen of Shade. I am the Queen of Shade. And I wanted every one of you to understand today, you got to stop letting people guilt trip you into doing, because the world takes advantage of kind people. Oh, but if I didn't have this, oh, and if it wasn't for you, and that's what you need to say. Oh, well, if it wasn't for me, what would have happened? Okay, good, because I can't be here tomorrow. So it's going to happen. It may not have happened today because I was here, but tomorrow I'm not going to be here and it's going to happen. Why? Because it's inevitable. Because you didn't do anything to stop it. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. I stopped it today because I was here and I was kind and I helped you. But what's going to happen? It's going to happen tomorrow because you're not doing anything to help you. So your fate that didn't happen to you today because of me is going to happen to you tomorrow because I'm not going to be anywhere around. Your fate is coming. And a lot of people don't want to face their fate. You get what you put in. You get what you give. It's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. I got what I put in. I did, and I got. And that's the end of the story. So did you enjoy? I hope you did. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and don't forget to cash at me at the Queen of Shade. I am your favorite content creator, right? Right. You want to see more of this content, right? Right. Cash at me. I love you. Mwah. Salutations, it's the Queen of Shade here. I need a huge favor from you. I need you right now to follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. My Instagram is I am the Queen of Shade, and my TikTok is I am the Queen of Shade. And I also need you to subscribe right now to my YouTube channel, which is the Queen of Shade. Now, I know that I always say that, but maybe you guys don't hear me. I need you guys to show up for me in full force the way that I show up for you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please follow me on Instagram at I am the Queen of Shade. Please follow me at TikTok at I am the Queen of Shade, because I need you guys. I want to get my numbers up. Numbers aren't everything. I have a lot of people watching that aren't saying anything, but it's time for you to declare yourself to me. You love me. Declare yourself to me. You love me. Declare yourself to me. Thank you in advance, and I love you all. Mwah. Turn that TV down.